Welcome, everybody, to the Real Career Talk podcast. I'm your host, Isaac. Joining me today is a very special guest and one that I know well. It's my brother, Seth Hendricks. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having
Your
me.
first time.
Yeah.
Again, the intent of this podcast is really to provide real interviews with real people in real careers that they love and just share their experience on how they got there, why they love their careers, and any advice that they might have for others who are wishing to maybe travel down the same path or the same career. So I guess we'll just dive right into it if you're cool with that.
Yeah.
Tell me a little about yourself.
I guess I'll be telling them about myself.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know all that.
I know quite a bit. But yeah, if you want to just share with our audience just a little bit about you so that they can get to know you, and then we'll jump into more career-specific questions.
Yeah, perfect. Well, my name is Seth Hendricks. I live here in Central Wisconsin. I work at Century Insurance as a official title is Software Product Analyst. I typically say I'm a business analyst. So I work on a team in our IT department to basically when we're creating new software to help the company out. My job is really to take what the business needs are and then break that down into bite-sized chunks that we can create into basically workable software that we can give back to the business to help the company be competitive, be successful. It's really interesting. Yeah, as far as like myself personally though, before I get more into that, I play instruments, play guitar. I've run soundboards at our church for a number of years. Play some sports. I played soccer growing up, played ultimate frisbee. We're on the same team. So.
We are on the same team. Yep.
So let's see. I like to play with Legos sometimes too. I don't know.
What's a fun fact that people who don't know you might find interesting?
Oh yeah,
something kind of fun about you.
I have red hair. For those of you listening, you can't see me, but
our YouTube audience probably, hopefully, will be able to see you.
Yep. So that's not a fun fact for them. May have to come back to that question.
Okay,
we'll
that's
see.
fine.
We'll
That's
see.
fine. See if there's anything fun about you.
I guess the only thing I can think of off the top of my head is I used to call into radio contests, and I won. Over the course of several years, this was a big hobby of mine. I won 73 CDs.
73 CDs, you say?
Amongst other concert tickets and books and stuff. So, yeah, it's crazy what you can win on the radio.
It is, especially the amount of items that you've won on the radio. Very cool.
It was very fun. I don't do it anymore. But anyways.
Man. Well, that is very interesting, but I'm sure that a lot of people who are tuning into this would love to know just about your career story. Take us through that journey on how you got from junior high school, all the way to becoming a software product analyst or a business analyst, as you say.
Yeah. So, like I said, I work in IT. Growing up, I was homeschooled through high school, and around the age of 15 or 16, I started thinking more and having more conversations about what I wanted to do after graduating high school, because college was kind of what I knew as the traditional route, and I figured that would be my case as well. And just thinking about the different majors I could do. Actually, Isaac was going to Maranatha Baptist University around that time. He's about 3 years older than I was, so he was starting college there.
I still am.
So I was looking at majors at that college. I figured it'd be cool if we could be at the same college, but looked at their majors and looked at accounting. I was thinking business at the time. I found the way businesses compete with each other in the marketplace, the way that businesses operate, that was all really interesting, just the intricacies of that. So I was looking.
Can I put the pause button? Just
sure.
I was curious. You mentioned doing sound, doing some of these technical skills, playing instruments and such.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned having interest in business and some of the intricacies. Is there any correlation between some of those hobbies you had growing up and then the interest you had in pursuing a business major or accounting and stuff? Is there any correlation?
I think the biggest correlation would be helping other people. I think that's always been a big part of what satisfies me about my work. I had worked in customer service jobs for a number of years as well, and I'll get into that later. But yeah, so I think at the core of it is wanting to help people by making a church service sound well, by running the sound so that nobody even notices anything sounds bad. That's really satisfying, and again, businesses are out there to, make money. But yeah, I mean, by satisfying customers is how you bring in more money. So.
And did you enjoy more of those behind the scenes roles rather than being up front and center more so?
I would say so. I think it just has to do with the level of comfort you have that. I think I tend to lean towards the behind the scenes, don't want to be all the rah in the spotlight type of guy. So, but I think I can do either. I don't think that was a huge factor.
Okay, good deal. Well, you can keep going. You were talking about accounting and then the business area of your career journey.
Yeah, so I was still in high school, and basically when I told my mom that I'm looking at doing accounting, the CPA route actually, which I just thought, oh, that sounds very official, that sounds really cool, without really knowing a ton of what that actually entailed. So my mom said, let's mix in some curriculum in high school to actually get you familiar with some of that coursework. So we introduced economics and accounting and business, just to try to shape that path more as I explored that. And I enjoyed the coursework a bit, but I was still kind of needing a little more experience with the actual work. So anyways, in preparation for doing accounting as well, I actually worked at our local bank as a customer service representative teller, so I could get some of that satisfying customers, that type of thing, but also learning the banking and the finance side of it, which I thought would be kind of helpful. So,
was it? Would you recommend that to someone?
I think there's limitations because I was part-time, and a lot of the things I did was compliance-based, which I don't know if that will be as helpful as, say, like an internship. I think if I were to do more of an internship, if I did something like that, that may have been more beneficial. But again, that's my college route. I think in high school, I think it was fine.
Okay.
In high school, there's not as much of the focus on trying to nail the right job right out of the chute. But anyways, so graduating high school. Actually, before I graduated high school, I actually did take in my senior year a lot of dual enrollment credits with Maranatha.
Could you explain dual enrollment for people who aren't familiar?
Yep. So dual enrollment is where you take a course at a college and it counts for both high school and college credit. So at that point in high school, I didn't need that many credit hours to qualify for graduation, but I saw this as a very cool way to kind of get ahead of the game in the college world, and that way I could step out of high school and I would be further ahead than other people in college. So anyways, yeah, I started taking some courses, did intro to business and marketing and some Bible classes, and then I finally was able to take an accounting course that needed a little prerequisite work, but I took that in the spring of 2018 when I graduated high school, and that first accounting course opened my eyes to the fact that, shocker, I actually didn't really like that kind of work. And that was a big turning point for me, and I had to really decide, like, okay, so accounting is a no, so what do I want to do now?
Can I lean into that just a little bit more?
Yeah, cliffhanger, right?
Yeah, the cliffhanger, oh dear. Did you shadow any accountants during that time?
I sure did. Yeah, I shadowed my dad's accountant and talked with him a little bit about what he did. Again, it didn't get into the actual work as much as it was just the life, the 10,000 level foot view. But
it was more a big picture of what the career was like, but
right.
not the specifics of the day-to-day, he would say.
Yeah, and I don't think I quite realized all that at such a young age, and I
Mm.
was still figuring a lot of that stuff out. But
What was kind of the point where you were taking this coursework, or maybe even during some of these shadowing opportunities with accountants? What was the moment or moments where you realized, I don't really like the direction of accounting for a full-time job?
I was probably about halfway or 3/4 of the way through the actual accounting course, where I was getting more and more in depth, and then this was only like the accounting one, and then there was accounting two, and then there was more and more accounting courses to come, and I thought, well, I mean, I don't think that if this isn't going as well at this stage, I don't think I could go that much further and do the whole 150 hours 6 CPA route or anything. I couldn't do this every day for the rest of my life or whatever, but
Is
next
there a,
couple of years.
is there a singular maybe piece of the job that you were like, I don't really like this detail, or maybe this work-life balance thing for accounting? I'm just kind of curious the direction. Maybe you didn't know at the time, but like, was there a particular thing you could hang your hat and say, I don't really like numbers this much, or I don't really like the people aspect, or just the analysis aspect? Was there something specific, or was it more overall?
There's a lot of just really hard, grueling work that goes into accounting. I have a lot of respect for what they do. It's just, that type of grueling work, the type of constant getting the numbers, putting them in there, making sure it all balances and it all comes out. I just didn't find that very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that the fact that you went through the accounting class and were able to talk with some accountants, do you feel like that has helped you with your current job now, like just even some of the analysis aspects and such, or would you say that it was all wasted time?
No, I don't think anything is wasted. I think there's always something you can pull from, even if you don't end up going that full route. It did give me some insights into what accountants do, and to take some of that knowledge, and I don't use that knowledge every day now, but you never know. There could be a time where you go back and lean on that knowledge. I guess, is that kind of what you're going for?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Basically, I just wanted to remind anyone who's listening to that there is no wasted time. Even if you have, if you're shooting an arrow at a target, you may not hit exactly where you wanted to hit on that target, but you might be close, and that's okay. And it's not wasted time, as Seth mentioned. So that just a word of encouragement for some of you who may be maybe discouraged, or think, I keep shooting arrows and I keep hitting the wrong target, so to speak. But just keep hanging in there. You'll find your sweet spot.
Well, there's another thing too, I guess. Accounting is not that, and I'll get into this in a little bit when I talk about what I did decide to go into, but I still liked the business area, and it's not like accounting was like, let's just pick on pharmacy. I don't know why, but let's just say I just wanted to do pharmacy and then I went to business. Then there's obviously not as much carryover versus accounting and still staying within the business realm.
Sure.
So there's differences there.
Absolutely, that makes sense.
Nothing against pharmacists.
Yeah, no, if you're a pharmacist, there's no offense.
Just pull that out of my hat here.
Well, once you keep going, you were at the point where you're at the crossroads and decided to go a different direction than accounting. What did you do?
Mm-hmm.
And how old were you at this point, too?
Yeah, I was 18.
Okay,
yep.
So you're still fairly young, figuring things out.
This was like a week or two before I graduated high school. So I'm sitting on my bed. I just completed this accounting test, and I'm thinking, I'm just don't want to do this. And it was just clear as day. I just didn't want to go this route. So I got on my laptop, and I was just, I don't know, I was pulling up Maranatha, and there was obviously just like a general business degree I could go at Maranatha, but Maranatha was a smaller school, so it didn't have as many program offerings that I could go into. One other area I thought sounded interesting that I just kind of had in the back of my head at some point was IT, information technology. So working with computers. I've grown up with computers. I consider myself pretty tech savvy, running soundboards, just growing up with computers,
Mm-hmm.
and I just kind of viewed that as a possibility. So I looked around at other Christian colleges, and Liberty University came up as one that actually had, well, Liberty is a huge Christian college and has a ton of program offerings. And I kind of liked the online format of taking classes, the flexibility, the ability to, work and then do classes whenever it works for you. So I figured that would be a possibility. I was still open to attending on campus, but I was still looking for something that I could take classes that were in that certain price point, and then would these classes from Maranatha transfers there? Is again all these types of questions I had to look into. But at Liberty, I was looking, and I found they had a lot of IT programs, and they had straight up like cybersecurity. They had networking. They had database. They had a lot of different offerings, but one of the ones that I found interesting was called information systems, which is kind of a hybrid between the straight up IT route and then the business side. I'd already taken a lot of business classes with dual enrollment at Maranatha, so I figured let's look at the information systems route. And the rest just kind of fell into place. Talked with my parents; they were in full support of me going this route, and transferring process was very smooth. I think, basically all my credits transferred. Maybe one didn't, but it was really good transition, and I was still able to complete that degree online. So just kind of pivoted towards that. And I continued to work at the Pineries Bank at that point. I would say that is a regret of mine that I didn't, maybe we can touch on this at a different point, but I didn't go further down the internship path. I would say I was scared about going down that path. I didn't know if I was going to work at this bank after graduation. I didn't know if I was still going to stay in the banking world, in which case it kind of made sense to stay in the banking job. So I think I kind of stalled on that versus, looking into that more and finding a good internship. Like Century does internships, and there's other companies that do internships where I could have gotten my foot in the door at a different company, and it would have been probably would have been a lot more beneficial for me to gain that real life experience doing more IT related things versus more banking things. So I'll stop there if you have anything.
Yeah, no, that's great. I guess I wanted to touch a little bit on the college experience. You made the decision to basically pursue college fully online, but you considered going to Liberty's campus, which I believe is in Virginia.
Yep.
Do you have any regrets not going and experiencing having the college experience, or are you kind of glad that you chose the route that you did? I mean, can you talk a little bit about that for maybe people who are in college or thinking about going the full college route, being on campus versus online? Can you speak to that?
Well, the first thing is the campus was a lot more expensive. And I think that was the biggest factor, maybe the only factor in me not going. Second factor would probably be I'm introverted more, and I prefer not to have the college experience. That's not everybody's cup of tea. I prefer to just focus on the school, get that done. Took a lot of classes, took summer classes. Again, by the point I had graduated high school, starting at Liberty, I had completed 43 credits. So about the first year and halfway through that second year almost. So,
and this was all dual enrollment?
All dual enrollment.
So you're doing this in high school and about ready to essentially go into your freshman year, but you're not really a freshman in terms of credits, right?
Right.
That's actually pretty cool to save time and money that way.
Yeah, so going into Liberty as a sophomore, which, there's a dual enrollment rate, was quite a bit cheaper, saved a lot of money there. It's not all about saving money, but it is a part of it, I would say, when you're spending money on education, which I view as to get you a job. And
or hopefully a career, as we
I
talk
would hope
about
so
here.
too. Yeah.
There's a difference.
So I don't think that there's anything wrong with doing the on-campus or the online. I guess an analogy I would do is the whole work remote these days is pretty big. A lot of people are aware of how some people can work from home, some people have to come back into the office, and people have preferences on that. And it's really an individual thing where some people are more productive, they work better, they just have a much better work-life balance or just work time at home, or some people are much better in the office with those in-person conversations. And even going to school, you have those in-class conversations, which you have those good and bad about both routes.
Definitely.
So really have to evaluate yourself when making that decision.
That's great. Yeah, if you could just share a little bit more on you're pursuing information systems, you're already carrying in a lot of credits, heading from high school into essentially being a sophomore at Liberty. Can you talk about how that went? And we're heading into close to COVID year as well. Can you talk a little bit about just navigating college and even going through COVID as well?
Yeah. Well, I started Liberty as a sophomore and in August of 2018. So I just turned 19 years old at that point. Again, working at the bank, going into 2019, all the way into the fall. And spring of 2020, before COVID, so this is like January, February, I was seriously looking at internships because I thought, I don't think I'm going to be working at a bank at this point. And so I actually looked at Century Insurance. I'd always really respected the company. It's been in my hometown most of my life, and got to witness a lot of the good things Century does. Seemed like a really good place to work. So I had applied to an IT internship at one point. I want to say this was in 2019, so the year prior, and I didn't get in. So it was a little tough to get into the IT internship. So I tried going for a different internship that they might have just to get an internship. And I actually was able to get an internship. It was in claims. So I didn't know much about claims, but I figured, hey, I got an internship. This is great. I had all these plans for 2020. I was going to do this internship in the summer. I was going to graduate in the fall. Probably going to get a job at Century, just kind of paving the path here. I kind of figured, okay, now I know what I'm doing. March, COVID hits, everybody goes home, and I get notification that my internship's been canceled with all the COVID uncertainty floating around, which was a huge bummer. So I was looking around for any type of internship type of thing I could do to try to make the most of it. And, because I was at that point where I was at a crossroads, I either had to sign up for summer classes and graduate essentially, because I only had about 12 credits left or so, which I was going to take in the fall, or I would have to do an internship of sorts in the summer. I wasn't able to find really anything. They had this thing called an externship at AT&T. It was all virtual, basically watching courses, you get a certificate. So I did that, and I signed up for summer courses, and I kept working at the bank, and I was really disappointed, but I figured, well, I'm making the most of this, and that's the best I can do at this point. Graduated in August of 2020. I was technically 20 years old when I completed my coursework, so
wow.
technically...
So you graduated high school 2018 and then graduated college in 2020.
Yes.
And you were 20 years old.
Yes.
So just that's pretty
the power
rare.
of dual enrollment.
Probably both the power of dual enrollment and then also knowing what you want to do and not switching your major 5 times.
Right. Well, that's a fair point. If I was going down, let's just pick on pharmacy again. If I had done 43 credits of pharmacy work and then I had to start over, that's a lot of money and time you're not going to get back. So I think really taking that time in high school to think through, what do I like to do? What are my interests in? And
not being afraid to strike out, time, like with
absolutely.
Accounting. And again, it's not wasted time. You can learn from those experiences and such.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah, so I was able to transfer a lot of those credits. Like I said, it still kept me in that information systems major.
Hmm.
I was able to do a business minor and an accounting minor actually. So
Hmm.
I did take on one or two extra accounting courses, but I figured, I mean, this is all going to be valuable. I think that an employer seeing you have an accounting minor says you
Yeah.
know something about accounting at least, and that's going to be seen as valuable. I figured. So,
Exactly. Very cool.
yeah.
And then, so how did you get involved at Century Insurance to where you're at today as the software product analyst role? Did you go right into it, or was there some steps that you need to take first to get to where you are now?
Yeah, so it was August of 2020. I turned 21 like a couple days after I graduated, so there's that. And yeah, I'm looking around for jobs. Didn't have anything, right out of graduation. So, yeah, before I put in my 2 week notice at the bank, and I was just trying to look around for anything I could get. COVID hiring is a little tricky. I was looking at Century. They had put a freeze on hiring for a number of months, and they were just starting to get back into hiring. I talked with one of their recruiters actually about that because I had some connections with them from the internship, and I was asking if they were hiring in information technology. That's where I really wanted to go into. Just got all these classes in information technology done. And they said they were hiring a couple. A lot of it was more experienced professionals and people who have years and years of experience. So there really wasn't much. The positions they were hiring for, though, was more customer service, which, again, I was doing at that time with banking, and claims, again, customer service. So I was applying for a claims position, and and I got the position. So this was about September of 2020, so about a month after graduation, I was hired in claims. Started me off at good salary, for what I was expecting. I thought, hey, this is pretty good, especially when I was getting paid at the bank. It was a big step up. So, so just got ready to get started. Put in my 2 weeks. I had 1 week for the first time, probably since I was very, very young, that I was not doing school or working. So I had 1 week, and it was pretty fun. Anyways, and then I got into the real world and got working. I can take a pause there.
That's pretty cool. So your first big boy job, as it were, wasn't really within the realm of your studies per se, mainly just due to the options that were available at the time, shortly coming out of, you said summer 2020, right?
Yeah, this would be fall.
Or fall, I should say, September. So,
summer, fall, yeah.
Yeah, so we're still in the pandemic year and such. So
pandemic's trying to get, people are trying to get hiring again after the pandemic. Right. So I had the choice of either just, taking whatever, or trying to wait, for that right job to come around. And I figured, let's just take what's there at that point.
Absolutely. So talk a little bit about the claims job, because I know that wasn't exactly what you went to school for, but did it in any way help you do what you're doing now, and what did the process look like going from claims to this software product analyst role?
Yeah, it was a big journey, shaped a lot about who I am today. It's a huge part of it. So basically, I was hired as a personal lines auto claims adjuster. To break that down, that would be your average Joe who needs an insurance policy for his car. He gets in a car accident, somebody reports a claim on his policy, gets fed to me. I take the phone calls, and I talk with the people who are involved. I have to figure out, is there coverage under this policy? And then who is at fault, and then that determines if we're going to pay money or not for the damages. So that's the simplification of what I do, but it was a very busy job on the phone, really emotionally and mentally wiped me at the end of every day, but I still had this fire of I want to keep working at this, and I really want to do my best to keep working at Century and move into IT.
And I want to lead into that too, because you were not in the role that you had wanted to be in, yet you did the best you could in that role and were patient, right? That's how you describe it?
I would say so.
And what kept you going just during that time, knowing that I can't really see what's on the other side? This isn't really my end goal career, so to speak. But did you just view it as a stepping stone, or what kept you going to the point where you didn't just totally quit and go somewhere else, a different company or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I knew that Century had this position of software product analyst, and I was really aiming for that. I knew it had a lot better pay and opportunities there, had a better, it was a non-customer service job. That was a big part of it. So I had heard things about people being able to work up in Century, and it's a great company to work for. So a lot of that was behind it, but also I just trusted that I'll keep working, and we'll see what happens. So just really taking it day by day, month by month. Got my first year under my belt, and then started conversations with my manager about here's what I'd like to do, here's where I'd like to go, and so again, it was took another year, but I was able to apply and got the job as a software product analyst, and a lot of my experience in claims was actually really beneficial, because I knew so much of the ins and outs and the software and the actual what they do. I had experienced that,
right.
And then taking my technology skills that I learned in school, putting that together, and then moving forward with again, it's more of an entry-level type of position in IT, but they're teaching me what I need to know and doing what I need to do.
Absolutely. So it was probably, to get the job that you want, you describe it as both the academics that you had in school, but also paired with some real life experience too at the company that eventually opened that door for you. And that's how you landed the job. Were you doing any sort of further study within IT, any other certificates or any sort of study after work at all? When you come home from claims, or I guess you were working remotely during that time, but
yeah.
Was there any sort of study that you were doing just to keep fresh, so to speak, or was that just something that it was the right place, right time, and you just got it?
I was doing some, but I also knew that they would teach me what I needed to know, and I didn't have a way of knowing what I needed to know until I got there. So there's that wall, so to speak, of I can keep learning all this stuff like in theory, and and this would all be good, but until you actually get working and you actually get told what needs to be done, there's again limitations.
Absolutely. Okay, good deal. So now I want to just hang out briefly on the current career that you have, and just some of the listeners may be interested. They might be like, oh, kind of a juxtaposition between business, IT. That sounds interesting for me. But after working there for how long have you been a software product analyst now?
I'll be a year this August.
So just under a year, but you're coming up on a full year's time. Knowing what you know now, who would make an ideal software product analyst? What type of personality, skills, who's a good fit for that role that you have?
Yeah, it's kind of a unique mix of somebody who is very detail oriented, really needs to get to the root cause, the bottom of something, and really needs to ask good questions and have that knowledge of the business side and the technology side, so you can talk with the business people, but also talk with the engineers who are talking in their own languages, so to speak. Of they're on their computer and they're in the computer languages all day. So when they're talking to you about their lingo, you have to be able to translate that in a way. So again, it is a bit of a hybrid role, and it's a challenging role for sure, but again, somebody who's really detailed, analytical, people person
in IT? I thought they just were on their computer the whole time.
Oh no, they're out there. You need some pretty people people in IT because, yeah, for the most part, most IT people don't really want to talk to people. They prefer to just do their thing, you know.
Would you say that that's a valuable commodity, as it were, in IT, to be a good communicator and a people person?
So again, my experience with talking with people all day came into play, but I couldn't see it then. So it was just yeah, really cool thing.
That's awesome. And I guess if someone is interested in pursuing this, would you encourage them to take a similar route to you, as far as schooling, dual enrollment, and such? Well, I guess, is this even a career that people would need to go to college for? Like, could you give a little bit of the educational path for someone to get a software product analyst role? What would that be like in 2023?
Yeah, I would say if somebody wanted to, and I'll just use the term business analyst because that's, you know, what many companies would be hiring for. They've got their technology departments and they need those business analysts to do the digging in the business side and then the tech side and back and forth. So I would say having a degree in information systems or IT, computer science even, I think any of that is really good. But you really have to know the type of business you're working in. So again, my industry is insurance, so I got to learn insurance by working in claims on the front lines of insurance. But you can come in and you can learn. So really have to have that learner's mentality of being able to come in and being able to learn what they need you to learn, being that right type of fit for the company is a big thing. Experience is a huge thing, which is always kind of that tricky thing where you need experience to get experience, but how do I get experience unless I work? So
great conundrum.
Very interesting. I would say the best solution for that really is to figure out, who do you want to work for? Do you want to work for yourself? Do you want to work for a company? I knew I wanted to work for Century, or at least I had a really good idea I wanted to work for Century. So that made it a lot easier to know what you actually, where you want to work. And then if they can't take you on right away in that role, you can always be starting out in a lower position, kind of like I did. Well, it's not really lower, but in a way it is. But anyways, you can start out by what they're hiring for, kind of like what I did, and just work your way in the company if they want, if they are a good company, if they hire from within, or, you know, there's other routes if you want to be, you know, if you want to work for yourself. I don't think you can do that as a business analyst, but in other jobs, for sure, you can actually try to, you know, reach out to clients and offer to do work at maybe a lower rate so that they can get a good deal and you can get that experience. So, yeah, again, that's a kind of a conundrum, but it's, it just takes time, I think. And I don't know, I'm not the most patient person, so I think I had a little hard time with that of trying to wait to get experience, but yeah, I think that's the answer.
Good deal. Also, for someone considering this role, what is kind of I know a lot of people oftentimes chase salary or they chase work-life balance and such. Could you talk a little bit about what that's like for you? Are you able to live all right, or are you struggling to get by? And then also, you know, what does your schedule look like as a spa?
Yeah, well, I definitely am fine. I'm very comfortable with what they pay, and yeah, Century's, yeah, big shout out to Century. They've got a great work-life balance. They, you know, I work 40 hours a week. I'm hourly. If you're salary, there could be some differences. You may have to work more or less than 40 hours, but again, hourly, 40 hours a week. Yeah, just come in. It's very flexible, actually, a lot more flexible than claims. Like claims, you have to be on and off the phone at certain times to be able to handle that majority of phone calls that come in, versus IT, you basically just have to get your work done. It's a little bit of a difference there. But yeah, it's
Definitely.
absolutely love my job.
That's great. Very cool. Well, I think that's pretty much all I had for questions. I guess, are there any other final words of advice that you'd have for people that are maybe, I guess here's a couple scenarios. Maybe just someone in high school, maybe in college, they're unsure of the direction they're heading, and maybe they're considering something within IT or within business, or maybe another scenario too is there's someone in their 30s or 40s and they're wanting to make a total career change from a pharmacist or something to maybe becoming an IT professional. I guess what advice would you just have for someone, because you almost lived this out, you actually did, where you were in one path within the same company and then you eventually got your role.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you have for some of those people?
I think for anybody who is in that phase of trying to figure out what they want to do, if you are in that high school / college route, you do have that opportunity depending on the type of degree you're getting. Let's just say you're getting a bachelor's. A lot of times those first 2 years you have those electives, those general ed classes. You can take those, and maybe that will spark an interest in one subject. Then you go down that path. If you are purely just, I don't know what I want to do, I would say don't be afraid to start working. You just try to get some work experience. If you can work and do school, I'd say that's the best way to go. But I don't know that you really have to do college for everything. It really depends on what you want to do, because working, you get paid to figure out if you like what you do, versus
True.
college, you got to pay money to take classes, and you could figure out what you want to do and you might not. So college is useful for some professions, and then there's others that you could do just as fine with working right out of high school. You may never need to do a single class at college, and that's totally fine. I would say there's no judgment in that. If you feel like there is, maybe that's more so on you to make sure you're thinking about that, right? But I mean, when you're in high school, there's a lot of pressure on you from all kinds of different sides to have to do things, or maybe you force yourself to do things. Yeah, what are you gonna do? I would say the ultimate goal, though, again, is you're gonna have to work at some point and make money. So if you just want to go for anything, look at what will actually make you a living. I'm sorry, but that's kind of a blunt way to put it. But I mean, I can't put it any other way.
There you go. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for being willing to sit down and just talk about what you do. And hopefully this has been helpful for you guys, the listeners. And if you guys have any other questions for Seth, drop a comment down below on YouTube. There you go. Nice.
Smash the like button.
Smash the like button. Thanks for the plug right there. Be sure to subscribe also if you're on YouTube. Also feel
free, and you can always change your mind later.
Yes, exactly. Man, I need to have you on more. I need to be my marketing.
You don't watch enough YouTube.
I guess not. But yeah, and then also if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, also feel free to like or share the content if you found it helpful. This is meant to be a resource. It's supposed to be helpful. I hope it was for you all. It definitely was for me. I learned something new. It was really cool.
Crazy. We're brothers.
I know. Something. Well, and I know you pretty well, so if you guys have questions, I can get an answer pretty quickly from this guy. So, cool. Well, enjoy your day. Thanks for listening. This has been the Real Career Talk Podcast. We'll see you later.